Hey, good morning. This is Huntington disease Todd, and today I want to talk about why do sometimes people think that they don't have Huntington's disease, and this is pre-diagnosis or pre-getting tested. I always felt like I had a pretty firm grip that there's a chance I could have had it, and when I got tested, it was confirmed. But people have a way of protecting themselves, I think, in life. And when I was before I came down with Huntington's disease, I used to do quite a bit of work in ministry, in prison with men, and we talked about our looking glass self. That's going to be my first point. Our looking glass self, sometimes that's what people see in us, but we can't necessarily see in ourselves. Also, the second point is going to be our body can sometimes shut down because our mind gets highly stressed. So that's another point that we're going to cover. And then finally, you must offer understanding through all of this, and don't be too pushy, but just offer your presence. It's kind of a hard thing if someone doesn't see this in themselves. And it's hard for you because you maybe, as a loved one looking at it from the outside, you think everything about this is very obvious to you. So that goes back to the first point. What is it exactly, this looking glass self? When I used to do ministry in prison, we had a lot of men in there that were they didn't fit well in society. Obviously, they didn't fit well in society because of something that happened, in their youth or their childhood or their upbringing or whatever, or maybe it was just their mind, and maybe their looking glass self or how they saw themselves was really different than other people saw them. So how we see ourselves is not always the same as some other people might see us. And that just reminds me of the fact that we can have a view of ourselves as being very, calm and commanding, but also other people could look at us as weak and defenseless. Sometimes in life, I was pretty accepting of people on the face value, and sometimes when I would accept people on the face value, it could fall back on me and harm me because sometimes people will try to take advantage of you if they think, I don't know, I wouldn't say I was gullible, but I was always just I thought people were out to do the right thing. That was that's how I was when I was in my younger stages of life. But what I realized is that the men that I mentored to and talked to in prison, they were not like me at all. They had very sometimes low self-value, self-esteem. They thought everybody was out to get them. They thought that, their life was never going to be good and that they were never going to have redemption in things. So through all that, I really realized that other people don't see things necessarily the way I did. When I was about to get tested for Huntington's disease, I kind of knew that there was a chance I would have it. If I found out that I had it, I was going to deal with it. Deal with it good or bad, I don't know. But I did decide to get tested. But again, the way I saw myself through it was probably different than other people saw in me. So we can look from the outside and think we know exactly what's going on in a person's life because we try to visualize things or imagine things of how we would look at a situation, how we would treat things. Unfortunately, with Huntington's disease especially, you can't see things the way I do because it's just, I call it before the ununderstandable brain. What's going on in our minds is not logical or rational anyway, and then throw on that just a whole lifetime of situations we've been put in, and we can have a whole different self-view, and maybe we are, and the second point of this, maybe sometimes we shut down to protect ourselves. There's called a freeze mechanism, and sometimes some people have a higher or lower level of freeze mechanism. I think earlier before I spent this much time with Huntington's disease, like I said before, I have had it for 12 years now. But before or in the middle stages of this, I had a much higher tolerance for adversity. I could handle things that were thrown at me, and I would not freeze up. I would not shut down. I even went to and learned all the principles of how to win friends and influence people through Dale Carnegie. So that was kind of my mindset. I was not easily stumbled, and I would not easily trip up, and I would try to keep moving forward. They always said in sales, if someone's asking a question they haven't yet said no, you know what I mean? Or no, if someone's saying no, they just haven't had enough information yet. So if someone is, that was my mentality. If you were telling me no about a situation, you just hadn't had enough information to form the right decision yet. I was a pretty good salesman when I sold because I would win friends by learning about people, but I would also listen to their concerns. I would write down the things that they would tell me, and I would keep a level head about things. Now, I freeze like a lot quicker and a lot faster with any situation. I am not quick to argue anymore, nor am I quick to fight for myself. So through all this, what I found out is that at one point, my freeze up level was probably at 100%. I would not freeze because your loved one, the person in your life, their freeze level may already be here at 50. And then when Huntington steps in, maybe it drops down to 25. All right. My freeze level now, I would say I'm at a 25. So what does that mean? That means that the way I'm going to handle the conflict of it all is I'm going to freeze up. So it's hard to deal with someone when they're froze up because it shuts down their mind, so it like leaves them not the opportunity to have discussion about it. So again, talking about Huntington's disease, and as a caregiver and the loved one, it's challenging when you have someone that first off doesn't necessarily see things from the same vantage point that you do. As they look through the looking glass of their life, they see themselves as something that was done this way when they were a kid, an event that happened that caused them this thing. You know, I've talked to people too, that sometime in life they have a come to the Lord meeting in their lives, and that changes how they view themselves and view other people. And that has happened to me, and it's happened to others that I have out in the audience here. Sometimes in life, it takes something outside of us to correct those problems, and it's not necessarily something we can do on our own. But then add to that the complication of Huntington's disease, and it just makes it even harder to overcome the obstacles of this life. So just imagine that. I was a win friends and influence people, and now I'm a cowering almost person. If you throw me enough heat in a conversation, I'll freeze up and I'll clam up and I just won't even want to talk anymore. So you hear sometimes people say, oh, well, why does the Huntington's disease person want to stay home? Or why don't you go out and do things? Or why don't you go out in public? Well, I don't know if they say it like that. I'm maybe hyper overanalyzing that. But people, especially the people that have Huntington's disease, we sometimes end up staying home because it's just the easier path and there's not as much resistance. Unfortunately, in my life right now, I'm still having to face a lot of the issues of life because things are being thrown at us, me and Wendy, with the age that we're at, with the difficulties that we face and those kinds of things. So I can't just stay home. Sometimes I'd like to. So that's number 2. And then finally, when you see us not necessarily knowing exactly who we are in ourselves, when you see us freezing up, having trouble dealing with the pressures of life, you need to understand us. And you need to offer peace, or how did I say it before? Offer presence and not pushing. Be there, easy or hard as it may be, but don't try to be pushy through it either. I'm telling you, that's going to be a hard thing for you to do, because all of us are brought into this world almost on the same playing field. When we're babies, we learn the things that we learn through the environment that we're in, but we all have a chance in life to, try to find a way to be a better person and live a different life. Sometimes not everyone is offered the same opportunities, obviously, through the growing up part. And then again, throw Huntington's into it, and it makes it a lot harder. Finding out now that you have Huntington's disease is not as bad as it once was, because now we're getting closer and closer to having some kind of treatment. My hope in all this is that in the next couple of years, that they will work more towards finding something that'll help with Huntington's disease that will make it more bearable to find out that you have it. Maybe they could give us a pill that'll slow it down, or even if it's a brain surgery or a shot in the spine, whatever it is, if there's a way to have hope that when you find out you have it, you know, finding out you have it wouldn't be the end of the world, I guess. So anyway, that's my points today. Why do some people just don't think they have Huntington's disease? It baffled my mind, but then after I thought about it for a minute, I was always looking at it through how I was. That Todd that was, you know, the high achiever and the high brain user and that sort of thing. And again, not disparaging anyone, but we don't all have the same level of childhood and rearing. I had an awesome mother. I had awesome brothers when I was growing up as a kid. It was like the best time in the United States and in my life. And we were having, you know, just, it was a fun time back then. Things are a little more complicated today. So this Huntington's disease, Todd, and that's it for today. Come to my page and subscribe. And now also, I'm on TikTok. I'm going to do a live feed at 8 a.m. this coming Friday. This video will go out today, which is Wednesday, I believe. So come to my channel and subscribe. There's a lot of other stuff here at Huntington's disease, Todd. I'd love for you to share this information. Also get notifications if you sign on so that you get you understand when I'm going to be when my videos come out. Okay? So Huntington's disease, Todd, and have a good day.